recurring, repeat attendees, and then some new folks and new faces. So my name is Heather Neworth. I'm the Director of Programs at the Innovation Hub, and I wanted to start out with introducing myself because we have 23 programs that run out of our center, and they are varied and have different resources attached to them and different time commitments. And one of the great joys of my job and my role is that I get to be one of the advisors for the TEDx Student Board. And we're going to dive in a little bit to what that means in a few minutes, but I thought that I would start out by asking Dan and Natalie to introduce themselves and share a little bit about their background before they dive into what matters to them and why, and also why Tedxmiddlebury. So I don't know who wants to kick it off. But...
So hi everyone, my name is Natalie Figueroa. I am a senior international global studies major focused in Latin America with a linguistics minor. I'm from a small town right next to where the Patriots play over in Massachusetts. I am the first in my family to come to college. I'm the daughter of two Latin American immigrants, so my background is what I was pretty unique, and coming to Middlebury was a pretty big change for me, but I'm less happy with it.
Yeah, and my name is Dan Adamek. I'm an international politics and economics major with a minor in French from a small town in upstate New York called Herkimer. Probably the spot I've ever heard of. And it's kind of near Utica. And I am from a working class background. First person that I ever knew to come. I didn't really know, when I was in high school, I didn't really know any colleges like Middlebury. So I was the first person in my family to come to a college like this. And yeah.
So I thought it would be helpful if you two could share the structure of Tedxmiddlebury and how you do or do not interact with staff in our office, because I think it's pretty impressive. A lot of people don't know that our TEDx conference that we host every year is almost completely student-driven, and there is staff support. But can you talk a little bit about the structure of your year and some of the work that goes into building TED, and then we can dive into what matters to you and why.
Yeah, I can go. So TEDx is a group of between 8 to 10 people. It depends on the year. So Natalie and I have been through a bunch of TEDx's over the years, and so we are a group of students that is non-hierarchical, which means we don't have any leadership structure. Everybody tries to share the responsibilities pretty evenly, and we have our weekly or bi-weekly meetings depending on the time of the year with Heather and the CCISC team. And yeah, we plan everything from the types of fonts that are in our pamphlets to the transport of our speakers to the schmoozing at our reception that we do.
I should also mention that we're always looking for new student board members, so if that is interesting to you, be on the lookout for when applications and interviews are happening. So why Tedxmiddlebury for both of you?
Well, for me, it was actually kind of funny because I didn't know what TED was when I was in high school and barely a little bit freshman year. And I went to the event my freshman fall back in 2014, and I thought it was a really interesting platform to put these stories up that were not traditionally represented, whether it be from where I was coming from or on campus. And then I remember once I got on the board, my ideal talk that I wanted was to bring migrant justice, and which I did our sophomore fall 2015, and I saw it as a really great way to not only present an idea that students were aware of through the organization Juntos, but also kind of get to see a more personal side of them as organizers and as people. So I was excited that they wanted to give their talk a bilingual talk, so it was consecutive bilingual Spanish and English, and watching them specifically have the ability to tell a story in their native language to really put a lot of heart and soul and personality into it was the most meaningful moment I think that I had in my TED experience.
Yeah, and I think I also had a similar experience of not knowing what TED was when I, up to right when I applied. I had seen the posters. I didn't actually make it to the TED event my freshman year. And I saw the posters for that they were accepting applications, and I was like, okay, this seems cool. Like, I was kind of floating. It was my freshman year, you know, you're trying to find your group. And I was luckily able to get an interview and join the team, and was really intrigued by the idea of being able to share ideas. That specifically, I had looked at a lot of the videos of the year before, and I had looked at a talk was done by a woman named Lords, who is a activist that does activism for Black trans women. And I'd seen the talk and that she had given my freshman year, the recording of it, and I was like, this seems so cool. It was all very new and fresh to me, and when I interviewed, I had seen the dynamics of the team that was there, and it was a very fun, interesting dynamic of the people that were there. And so I was a little intrigued. I think Gio was in the interview when I was there. So I think that's what really attracted me to it, yeah.
So I'm going to ask one of you to share what happened when you applied, I think it was 2 years ago at this point, the feedback that you got about this conference becoming too TED activist, and how you kind of worked to think through that, and how you see your role as TED organizers, that feedback, and then the broader criticisms about TED Talks, which is that they're often inaccessible or they're kind of meant for the global elite. So if you guys can pull that apart and share out a little bit, that would be great.
Okay. So we had joined the TED board, and in our first meeting, I remember hearing that we had some feedback. So after, the way that TED works is that after the TED event happens, we submit all of the videos to Big TED. And they go through them, they approve them, and then they upload them to the TEDx channel. And in doing so, they also give us a lot of feedback on how the event went from participants' point of view, and then also from the videos that they saw and the themes that they saw in our talks. And the feedback we had gotten the first year was like, this is becoming a TEDx activism conference, and we can't have that. You know, you really have to diversify it. And so I remember meeting in our first couple of meetings and being like, okay, but like our event does what? And we think that the ideas that are coming from our event are ideas that are new, haven't been heard before, and really go to the heart of the TED motto, which is ideas worth sharing. And so we tried to tweak it the next year. We brought some STEM people, and we got the same feedback the next year. It's like, guys, come on, you're gonna lose your license. Like, you really have to vary this up. And we had a serious conversation about it about a year and a half ago, and we were like, what do we do? And we were like, this to us is, I think Natalie will agree, I won't speak for her, but the kind of conclusion we came to is that TED for us is bringing people whose ideas are not often heard on campus, in our campus environment, bringing new ideas that are progressive ideas that open up the eyes of people on our campus. And we consecutively every year since we've started this and really held the idea that this is what works for us. We've seen the event grow and grow and grow, and so we've communicated this to TED, and they've kind of backed off a little bit now because they see that our events are selling out. They see that we have huge. I mean, we've had big speakers coming, and we had one of the leaders of the Southern Poverty Law Center come this past year and give an incredible talk that just brought the audience to tears. I mean, I think to us, the importance of this event and being, whether it is TEDx activism or TEDx non-activism and just new ideas, it's been something that has been so powerful for us, and I think we'll probably get into it a little bit later, but this past year when Leisha Brooks gave a talk about the civil rights movement and about martyrs of the movement, talking about what justice means, and it came at a time when our campus was, and we still are, but came at a time when we were really at a high point of tensions in terms of politics on campus. And I think it really started an awesome dialogue, both at the TED event and then after the TED event. And I think it really put a lot of things in perspective for people. And it was what we had wanted TED to be, and what we had aspired with our TEDx activism to create. I mean, it really became embodied. It was embodied.
No, I agree, and I understood a lot of worries that Big TED had in terms of our first event we've ever had. Our one tech guy got stuck in Mexico, and that wasn't our fault. We tried so hard to get him here. We tried so hard. And keeping that in mind, you know, whether we become TEDx activism or what have you, the talks that we give and present and have speakers come and give is a reflection of our reality and a reflection of what ideas need to be brought and discussed on campus, and not just to our campus community, just what the greater Addison County or even the greater Vermont community can I don't want to say benefit from, but can hear and make create their thoughts on, because we don't want to make it this platform that might seem extremely elitist, because, I mean, we didn't know what TED was coming in. We came from similar backgrounds. We're working class family, first generation college students, where if we are going to be a part of this, we want to show everyone our thoughts and our reality. Right?
Yeah, and I think kind of speaking more about I think that TED as a whole has been, you know, an awesome avenue for ideas to be shared, but there have been criticisms of TED that, you know, the big TED conferences, I mean, it's like, some people are invited, but I mean, it can be thousands, that costs thousands of dollars to go. You have to be invited. It's the global elite attends the global conferences. And so one of our, you know, in making our own homegrown version of TED, one of the things that we have tried to prioritize is making sure that, because these ideas are ideas worth sharing, that everybody can access these ideas that are worth sharing. So in the past couple of years, we've really shifted some of our models in terms of accessibility. So this year was our first year that we had ASL interpreters. We made a conscious effort to have access copies, to have large print copies, to have transcripts or rough transcripts of people's talks. And this year specifically was a really beautiful folk moment for us, because I think we had in the audience, it just wasn't Middlebury students that were there. We had such a mix of people who were driving an hour and a half, 2 hours from other parts of Vermont to come to our TEDx event. We had members of the Vermont deaf community come to our conference who had, you know, been excluded from a lot of these types of events in the past, and, you know, making these, and also in terms of keeping prices down, has been a huge goal in our, you know, grand ideas, you know, making sure that we are still an accessible event, because if we think the ideas are still worth sharing, then everybody should be able to hear these things.
And it was quite eye-opening, I think, too, for us, Lucy and I as advisors. We had a learning moment when actually one of the TEDx board members came in with an academic relationship and got a lot of advising around how to make the event more accessible. And we printed, you know, a pile of large print copies of the transcripts, and we ran out of them within 2 minutes. We had to go print more for the requests that we had. And so I think it's eye-opening for us in terms of all of the events that we do, how to create more access. I mean, I think this is a very small, intimate room, but one of the things I've heard over and over again, just when people say like, oh, I don't need a mic, a lot of people have hearing issues where a mic is actually essential for them to participate in the event. And so it was really great for us as staff to also have that learning moment of, these are practices that we need to have in all of our events moving forward. So I have a kind of fun question for you all. It might be too soon, but we have been through some trials and tribulations, and I think Dan and Natalie have outlined some of the strict guidelines that we have to adhere to through TED. And so I'm thinking namely of an event, I think it was 2 summers ago. Natalie, you were working on campus with the New England Review, and we found out mid to late summer that our application had been denied because we, on our website, had the programs on creativity and innovation listed on the website because that's where this program is housed. But they took that to be a sponsor, which is actually not allowed for TED. So I was hoping, that was quite an experience. We were not actually certain that we'd be able to host an event in the fall, and thankfully these guys burned the midnight oil and got us through. But I was hoping that you could speak a little bit to kind of some of the lessons that you've gotten from working on this board for the last 3 years, and how they apply to other experiences, whether they're academic or as you're interviewing and thinking about next steps post-grad, how you can take moments like that and transition them to other experiences, and what type of learning you've had from moments like that.
I've definitely gotten 10 times better at crisis management because of this board. It's a great skill that I put on my resume. But no, and I think this is one of the beauties of having our board so egalitarian, is that if one thing has gone awry, we talk it through. Okay, key steps. Make sure communication is on key. Reach out to people if you feel that you've exhausted the measures that you've gone through to try and get through this issue. I mean, in the case of almost not having our event in the fall of 2016, myself, another board member, Shubha, and a third, I'm blanking on the name, but we just kept, okay, Shubha had worked from these times and these times. I would call Ted, try to get on the phone with someone. I was free at I was working at this hour, so Shubha would try and get a hold. And I think what has also been a really good resource is that actually the founder of Tedxmiddlebury, Chloe Shasha, currently works with Big Ted.
Oh, nice.
Which is so great. So having the ability to, when we've exhausted so many issues and methods to try and get through these issues, Chloe, we're trying to get through this. You know how this program works. How can we at least reach someone? We don't want to make you do our work. We want to get in contact with the correct people. And she was a blessing to be able to reach. And through all the trials and tribulations, it's having that constant communication with the team and constant trust that the work will get done and it will be a good event in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of, the way that the Middlebury people being kind of everywhere and having their hands in a lot of different places it's really been eye-opening to see how Middlebury grads really support other Middlebury people. That's been shown time and time again with the mid-base that's at TED and even in other locations to get speakers here. But I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned from being on the TED board has been that I've met some really cool people and learned really cool things from those people. I mean, I think, so many people who attend our events, hopefully, our hope is that they learn so much from our events, or at least have their ideas challenged or expanded. But I think the TED board, every single time we talk to the speakers that we're bringing, we're so in awe of what they have to say and the ideas that the projects that they're working on and their life experiences and how they have gotten to the places where they have gotten. I mean, I'm thinking specifically of, not to bring her up again, but specifically talking about Leisha Brooks and learning about all of the incredible, who was brought here by a middle who works at SPLC now, she just talked about how talked to us the night before about how she had gotten to the place where she had gotten and about the different projects that she was working on, and learning about her process was something that was so interesting. And I think another thing that's really interesting that we do is that we workshop speakers' talks like in the months without having usually ever met or seen these people in person. We workshop their talks for months, and both the workshopping and copy editing portion, that portion is super important. But one of the biggest things is that we spend a lot of time dealing with sometimes difficult speakers, or not difficult speakers, but speakers who have their own sometimes working several jobs, don't really have time, or we're not their first priority. And the skills that I've learned, and I'm sure that Natalie and other members would agree, in persistence, in open communication, in really, doing whatever it takes to get this thing done, is something that's been so applicable to me in my life, and in the job search as a senior.
This is a fun job search.
Can you share a little bit about the student speaker competition, and why is there a student speaker competition?
So every fall semester, roughly about a month and a half before our event, we host a student speaker competition that allows one Middlebury student, regardless of what class they're in, the opportunity to give a TED Talk at our fall conference, and it's quite remarkable. One of the things I very much appreciate about it is the fact that the judges, we are not the judges in the student speaker competition. We choose outside faculty and staff to choose who they see would best fit our theme of that year. And we've had a wide array of whether it be class representation in terms of freshmen to seniors, talks. Really, it's an incredible platform that we offer, again, to engage the college community to be a part of our event, whether they're attending or they're just actually in the event.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me that's been awesome is, first, we've started to work in partnership with Oratory Now, and kind of bridging the gap between different programs that are available to students, and making sure that students know that those programs are available has been really awesome, because I personally wasn't really familiar with a lot of the work that Oratory Now is doing. We've really solidified that partnership, and it's made our events better. But in addition to that, I think the other thing is just hearing, having this forum that's just for students to give a talk about whatever they want, an idea that they have. It oftentimes relates back to different experiences that they have. And I think one of the coolest things is hearing about setting time aside to hear about students who are around you all the time, talk about things that they're really passionate about. I think that there's not a lot of times we don't really sit and have those conversations, so that intentional space is really interesting. I know every year when I see it, it's just so interesting to see what even people who I thought I knew very well are doing, or what they have experienced, and I think it's really important in terms of beloved community and that idea.
Okay, so you two and many of the TED board members feel this calling to use this platform to share out perspectives that aren't typically seen in Middlebury, but sometimes, especially people who are really interested in social impact can often experience burnout when they're just chronically working on and exposed to social issues, and how grave and profound those can be. And one of the things that sticks out to me about this group in particular, of all of the student groups that we work with, is how much fun you all have. And we talked in our preparation, we talked about this, right? So whenever the TED group comes in, I just laugh for like an hour. And we're talking about serious stuff, but it's just really fun. So I was hoping you could speak to the importance of fun and how you've made sure that you've embedded that in your culture as a student group, and why that is.
Yeah, I think the reality for us of TED, and seeing another former TED person in the room, the reality of TED is that it's a ton of work. It's a short period of time of a ton of work. It's like having an extra 2 classes, but for one event. And so because of that, we've had this really awesome culture, and I think you can just, one peek into it is the fact that we joke often that we are a family, and it's a really big inside joke, and it really is true. I mean, we take care of each other. I mean, I was just last night, I got a phone call from somebody who graduated a year and a half ago, Anna Jacobson, who was calling me, not to ask, I mean, she wanted to know how I was doing, but I don't think that was her number one thing. Was like, how's TED going? Like, TED is still happening, right? TED is, you're making sure that people are trained and that is gonna have a future. I mean, people really, our team members, past and present, are so dedicated to each other and so dedicated to TED. It's just something that I mean, maybe I've just have been blind to it, but I haven't really seen it or felt it in any other group on campus. I mean, it's really, there's a lot of really strong bonds that will be lifelong, I'm sure, that are still present. And like Heather said, I mean, we get together and we have a good time, but we're also able to have really serious conversations and get angry at each other sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's every dynamic that goes into being a family. We can bicker, we can fight, but at the end of the day, we try to make sure that we have that cohesive nature and relationship with each other, because if we're friends or as close as a family, that feels more like a conducive environment to get work done and to have fun in the process and to actually feel extremely proud of the product that we have, which is our conference, our event. I remember at the event, Gia, you were there, and you were helping us with a bunch of little things, and I remember you're like, I don't know when to stop. I was like, it's okay, I understand, because we pour our heart and souls into this event because it's what we all love doing, and we all don't want to disappoint each other, because this is such an object of how much passion we have into sharing these ideas and sharing events and ideas worth spreading.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to me, it's been one of the most profound things that profound relationships with other people that I've had during my time at Middlebury. I mean, we talk about all the time, like, what would we have done? I mean, it sounds so cheesy and generic. What would our college experiences have been like if we weren't, sitting at 1 o'clock in the morning the day before TED and stuffing name tags, I mean, but in all seriousness, it's weird to think about what college would have been like without this.
So do either of you have questions for each other before we go through that? I know. They told me I could throw some zingers in here, so this is the surprise element.
What has been the hardest thing about TEDx for you in terms of anything? I mean, in terms of doing TEDx? You can say anything with me, that's fine.
Honestly, I think to the flip side of just working without you that year that you decided to go abroad. Because, it was very different dynamic when myself, Dan, and I think at least 2 other students had come in. We were the new babies who had come in together our freshman spring, and to not have 2 of you guys who came in with me was a challenge, because we're training the new members and trying to be frank, to keep my cool, but it again is one of those lessons that you learn in those moments that you take a lot from. That fall was also just personally a very difficult fall for me, because it's right after a lot of what had happened in November, and keeping my mind set for the conference that we were going to have, and knowing, okay, this is an event that I love doing, and it drives me in a lot of my fall activities, and I still learned a lot from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think also one thing that we haven't talked about that I think is super important, has been really eye-opening to me as a member of the TED board, is we've talked about how we bring people from all around the country, and we talk about how we do our student speaker competition and really dive into things on campus with people who live on campus, but we also, one of the big things that we do is we intentionally every year bring at least one person who is in or from Vermont, hopefully from the Addison County community, or does work within the Addison County community. And I think that that's been something that's been so eye-opening to me, really seeing how many awesome things are happening around here and how many awesome people that have great ideas is something that's been really invaluable to me. I know I think it was the first year we started doing it was our sophomore year. I think so,
Yes.
Jay can correct. We brought Elizabeth Reedy, and I mean, who is the director, she's since stepped down as the director of John Graham Housing and Services, and you know, I had a connection with her because I had worked at the summer and then continued working there afterwards, but you know, hearing that, having her step on stage and really tell her story of how she became involved, her story of self, how she became in politics when she had a really classist thing happen to her when she was a young mother and was trying to buy she was trying to buy a ham for Christmas, on Christmas Eve for her kids, and try to pay in pennies, or try to pay in coins at the store, and the store said, we don't take coins, I'm sorry, with her newborn baby in her hands. And I mean, I remember looking around the audience and just seeing people crying, and I think when a lot of, so the moral of the story for that is that seeing that and the effect that those Vermont-based talks have had is, you know, I think we reach out, you know, so far to, you know, the metropolitan areas of the US, we reach to New York and San Francisco and Boston, really these like epicenters, or what we think of as epicenters, and a lot of times we forget to think that there's, you know, so many cool people here. And I think that's been just something that's been really awesome about TEDx, as well as plugging even more into the Vermont community.
What would you say is your favorite TED Talk we brought in our time together?
I mean, I think this year has been, for me, my favorite TEDx, but I'm sure that's also a lot of sentimental things happening there. But I love Alicia Brooks's talk. I also really love Nia Robinson's talk. I thought it was really powerful.
And Nia Robinson was our student speaker. She's a junior and just absolutely on the stage.
Wow.
So why don't we open it up? Does anyone have any questions? Oh.
I have a question, guys. So you could be, in fact, we've considered it in the past, just a student organization, a student org, right? But instead you're affiliated with Hub. So can you tell us why that's important? And also, you know, I think Heather, in the past, I definitely have, we've both answered questions. John probably answered these questions at times. We've all had the question like, why is TEDx part of the Innovation Hub? Why is TEDx part of creativity and innovation? And, you know, we always fall back to the tagline. You know, it's new ideas, right? It's ideas we're spreading. But I would love to hear it from you, why you guys fit so beautifully in at 118 South.
Yeah. So I think, for me, when you think about the Innovation Hub, or all of the programs that are in the Innovation Hub, all of those programs